Welcome to Creative Conversations, where I ask my guests, what does the word creativity mean to you? My name is Nina Lenton. I'm an untangler and coach, and I work with founders and freelancers who have lots of ideas, but aren't making progress on the ones that really matter to them. And I'm here today with Martin Cabble-Reid. Hello, Martin.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you. You?
Yeah, I'm very well.
So, can you give a brief introduction to what you do? Because I know you do lots of things. Just
I do, yeah. Basically, I'm an entertainer and I perform as a comedy character called Kevin Cruz. I've been doing that now for 18 years. And I do all the holiday parks like Butlins and Park Dean Resorts. I also am the Mr. Martin in the Basil Brush show, the TV legend that is the Fox. And we do things like P&O cruises, lots of festivals, etc. And I also am a trained mindfulness teacher. So I teach, I haven't taught for a little while, but I teach mindfulness and do lots of photography, lots of upcycling. And I'm recently been for Equity, which is the acting union. I'm a variety officer because I'm very passionate about looking after us actors in this world at the moment. So I do a bit of that as well. So a jack of all trades, as they say.
Absolutely. And I mean, the fact that you do all these millions of things, that's one of the reasons for asking you to come and talk to me on my podcast. So I'm going to ask the question that I ask all my guests. What does the word creativity mean to you?
Creativity mean to me? For me, when you say that, when you say creativity, it's about creating an idea, not necessarily about the actual act of doing something. It's about the concept. So say if I was a knitter or something, it's about thinking of an idea, planning it, designing it. But once I'm doing it, that's probably a hobby or whatever it might be. So for me, it's about creating something, I think, about coming up with a concept, which I'm very good at doing. I come up with a lot of concepts. And that's almost more exciting than the actual doing of it. In my industry, in the acting world, we sort of say the fun bit, the best bit is getting booked for the gig. Doing the gig is completely different. So, I've got friends that have gone into things like Les Mis and they've got, a dream West End role, 12 months of solid work, amazing. They are over the moon. And then when you start doing your 8 shows a week and it's the same show every night and the same response from the audience, and suddenly it's like, oh, yeah, I've got to do the work now.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's that initial creativity is about creating something and then hopefully being nice and entertaining and nice and creative. It can carry you through and you can enjoy it. Yeah, I think so. And
I mean, you've created all sorts of different, as you say, your characters. I mean, tell me about the creating Kevin Cruz, for example.
Yeah, that's when I was a jobbing actor. I was getting a lot of recalls for jobs, second recalls, but never getting a job, never landing it, never booking it. So I started doing a stand-up course in Covent Garden, and it was every Sunday for 3 months. And as part of the stand-up, because I wanted to be a stand-up comedian, that was it. Yeah. We had to create a character, a comedy character, based on something that we can relate to. So sort of write what you know, as they say. And because I'd worked on cruise ships, I'd done a few years working on cruise ships, I thought I'm going to create an over-the-top, flamboyant cruise ship character that's maybe so bad that he's actually quite good. Unadulterated, sheer entertainment, as Amanda Holden said. Just something fun and silly. Nothing, I'm not quoting Shakespeare or Chekhov, or I'm not trying to change the world or campaign for anything. It's just pure joy and entertainment. A little bit like a wedding disco when they start putting on black lace and everyone just lets their hair down and just have a laugh, those sorts of things, when everything goes out the window. That was the idea of Kevin, and I created it on the course. I started doing stand-up free events, above pubs and things, and realised that there's a million versions of me just as a man doing it and, dressing in a T-shirt and jeans. So I just started to dress as Kevin and wear the blonde wig, the fake tan, the sequins. And it kind of like made a bit of a storm. And then it just rolled from there. I started doing lots of gigs, won a few competitions. And then the producers of Britain's Got Talent contacted me and said, have you thought about putting it on the telly? And I was like, no, but that's a nice idea. Did the show, got onto the live shows, etc. And then it just snowballed from there. Everything sort of booked off the back of that, which was now 16 years ago. So back then, I can't believe I'm saying back then, but back then, 16 years ago, when Britain's Got Talent was like in its 4th season, a lot of people watched it. So I was very lucky. I was on the first audition show. So I had 8 weeks before the lives where I just sort of monetized, actually. I just got a lot of gigs coming in and got myself out there. And I got a lot of sort of press off the back of it. So I managed to kind of really build on that. And then it's kept me going for 18 years now. Yeah.
And you do it in all sorts of different places. And I was actually looking at your Instagram stories about the gig you did the other day with the leopard print outfit.
Yes. Oh, you know, in my past, I've done all these big shows. I've had a lot of, because I love supporting children in theatre and getting them out of the house and everything. I used to have, I think about the most I had was 80 kids, like as backing dancers, just doing these big numbers, all in costumes from a dance school. Brilliant times. However, now I've really cut it back to just me.
Yes.
And it was at the Windsor Brewery, a great big building. It's absolutely wonderful. And there was 150 people, my age, sort of like, 40s, 50s, who were just out to have a really good time. Like I said before.
Like really good fun.
Yeah, letting your hair down. We were playing all the 80s classics. Everyone was having a few drinks. There was food. And it was a safe space because the venue was just closed for people that had tickets. And just having a good time. No pressure, not like being out in the town of an evening. I'm at an age now where I don't go out of an evening.
Yeah. And actually, that reminds me of, you do panto. That was one thing you didn't mention in your introduction. So for the locals, the locals who are listening, it's the panto in Windsor.
Yes, so on the comic, I've been there for 17 years as the comic at Windsor, Theatre Royal Windsor for Bill Kenwright Limited. And I'm about to do my 18th year and I'm signed for my 19th year. So I've got a few more years there.
Brilliant.
And that's, we do 98 shows over 7 weeks with a kind of week's rehearsal and a week of tech rehearsal. So it's quite intense. We do 3 shows on a Saturday, 2 every other day. And it's full on, but it's a lot of fun. The Windsor audiences are amazing. They're just lovely,
I know people who've probably been coming to it as long as you've been in it, actually. We've only just started going to it the last couple of years, but yes, I do know people who've got teenagers who are still going to it. Yeah. So obviously when you're doing all these shows, whether it's going around touring with Kevin in the holiday parks or whether it's going up to Edinburgh, whether it's the panto, do you get much time to kind of think creatively or have that sort of headspace to do new things?
Yeah, I do actually. It's strange because someone's just messaged me this past week because I've got about 53 dates at Park Dean Resorts this year, right way through till November. And it does look a lot on a poster. Of course it does. But actually, when you sort of space it out, that's my job. I don't have a 9 to 5 or anything. So it's not that bad. And I do a lot of upcycling and a lot of painting. And people say to me, "Oh, do you ever see your husband?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I probably see more of my husband than most people that have a 9 to 5 job." But it can look a lot on paper, can't it? I'm sure you sort of experience things like that. But I have a lot of time. Like next week, I'm away for 6 days, and I work at 9 o'clock at night until 9:45.
Right.
And I'm about an hour backstage beforehand. As soon as I'm done, I'm off to my caravan because I usually get accommodation in a caravan at the holiday parks. So I do have all day mooching around seaside towns. I love a charity shop. That's my thing. I love finding things to upcycle and to paint. And I have a lot of time to think. And pretty much every day there's a new business, there's a new website being created, there's a new URL being bought.
The URLs. Honestly, I've spoken to other guests about that in the last series, and I think it's a sign of people with lots of ideas. I've cut down my collection now, but you can collect them, can't you?
Yeah, and I've got to be really strict because I have ADHD. I also when an idea comes in, it is literally the best idea that anyone's ever had in the history of ideas, and it has to happen, and it's going to make me millions, and it's going to be the best thing ever. And I need to hire a shop. I need to open it right now and crack on with it.
Yeah. But have you learned how to deal with that, or does that still? I mean, I guess the ideas will still come and the enthusiasm will still be there. But have you learned how to harness that in a sensible way?
Yeah, do you know what? It's really weird because I'm on medication as well for my ADHD. I didn't to start with because I was told, because I have a mindfulness practice and I meditate, that's actually quite good for me. But just maybe because I have ADHD, I thought I'm going to try it just to see what medication does. I always feel like I need to try things. Living here in Glastonbury as well, there's a big holistic approach to everything. Right. So I thought I'm going to try the medication and then also see what holistic things that can be added to it and maybe replace it. We'll see what happens. But a lot of people are afraid, this is just personally me, but a lot of people are afraid to take medication because they think it dulls their creativity, actually. That's the one thing most people say, or they worry about it changing them. And it's done the opposite to me. But what it's done is my creativity, it's almost sort of notched it up a little bit, which is slightly worrying, but it's made it a little bit more focused. So even though I can be mooching around Clacton and go, oh my God, I've just thought about, a market store. I need to get on markets. What I won't do is literally start Googling as I'm walking, like how much is a market store in my local town, or, how much can I buy these for and how much can I price them up, and actually start ordering things off Amazon whilst I'm walking around Clacton. I don't do that now. I have the idea and I let my mind run away with it, and I quite like that. That's quite fun. But then I'm just a little bit more sensible about the approach. And for me, medication has sort of like just, taken that away for me. I'm just a little bit more organised and a little bit more structured with my thoughts. And if it is a good idea, I'll run with it. I mentioned it to a few people. If it sounds good, great. But it has changed things in that sense. But I'm still really creative all the time, constantly coming up with ideas, constantly.
Well, that's great though, and I mean it's quite interesting to hear what you've said about that, because obviously I've talked about a couple of my guests on the previous series. We're talking a little bit about ADHD and having ideas, and and just having and I'm quite fascinated by what it's like to have all those ideas, but to have them in a different brain from mine, because I know we all work differently, don't we? And I can have ideas. And I can get enthusiastic about them, but I can also write them down in a notebook or something and come back to them later. Yeah. And not have to jump on them in quite the same way. Yeah. So it's interesting when you say it's kind of made you a bit more structured and focused. It's almost...
Yeah, I think so. But also a couple of weeks ago, actually, I was diagnosed with autism. Which I haven't spoken about actually publicly at all. So, but I'm happy to talk about it. But it was all, and when I got diagnosed with ADHD, he did say there were some autism traits that he said you might want to check out. So I actually put myself on the register to get tested. And when we moved back to Glastonbury, that whole postcode thing is bamboozling. But basically, I got put on a problem shared sort of fast track, which you can go on to. Doctor did it, I went with it, and then it took about a year and a half before I got tested. 3 or 4 weeks ago. And they said, absolutely autistic, you have all the traits, etc. And that's fine, and that is what it is. But what's really interesting is how I always think of my ADHD as like a little Dave on my shoulder, just sort of giving it this. And so when I do have ideas and I'm really creative and I've got carried away in the past, I now think of Dave kind of like giving it all this, and I'm just like, Dave just needs to have a bit of gaffer tape over his mouth for a while. Just, you just sit there, Dave, and be a bit calmer. But I've always had that pull and tug, which is the autism. So I think now I've got another Dave on my shoulder, and that's how it works. So what can happen is I have all these ideas, but then I'm actually quite structured and quite sensible about how to approach them, which is an autistic side of things, like spreadsheets. Right. I want to spreadsheet it. So I don't let anything run away with me too much. I'm quite careful. Like if I do start researching it or think about websites, I get carried away, which is the ADHD. But then I'm also aware that's cost me £11 to register that, and that's cost me a £5. Yep. Probably just leave it at that. And I'm quite autistic about that approach. So that's been really interesting, actually, especially from a creative point of view of how those two balance. And that makes a lot more sense than it did for my ADHD diagnosis, which was a couple of years ago, Because I always wonder why I never ran away with stuff too much. You hear people, don't you, that do some crazy things, the crazy ideas and creativity, and set up businesses and put themselves into huge amounts of debt or remortgage houses. And I was always quite cautious. So now I'm very aware of why that is now.
That's quite interesting, because I actually was doing a little bit of research a couple of months ago and chatted to quite a few business owners who either had ADHD or had ADHD and autism, and it was quite interesting how they talked about that sort of the combination of the two, and how that's actually can be quite different. So it's really, it's quite fascinating. Yeah,
really, really different. That's purely my point of view, though. That's just me in my world. So everyone's different, aren't they? There's so many layers.
Exactly.
But even on a different level, it made me realise how sometimes, like, wanting to go out on an evening, even just to sort of have some dinner or whatever, that mix between wanting to go out and have a glass of wine and sort of get changed, and that ADHD chasing a bit of dopamine. Maybe I've had a bit of a quiet day and I want to do something, but also an autistic side where I just want to stay in. I literally don't even want to talk. I want to go to bed early. Don't even want to talk to my husband. I've got time to myself. And that's that side of it. And that pull and tug of not knowing what to do and getting frustrated at myself because I don't do anything then. I just sort of go into a slumber. Now realising that it's that pull and tug between the two, and how to then deal with that, how to actually make peace with it, and literally shut Dave here and shut up Dave there. That's basically what I now do. I'm really good at knowing how to go, no, that's it.
I mean, when you talk about having all the different ideas and all the different things you do you have... I mean, obviously, you've got your own awareness now of how you work and some of the things that entails. But do you have other people? Do you have other people to keep you in check as well?
Yeah, yes. I'm laughing because there's usually my husband going, "Oh, what's this now?" Right, okay. And he is quite good. He's very sensible. He has like a proper job. He's not a performer. He has a normal job. He's a normal person. And he's very good at just going, well, just do a bit of research. I think that's his sort of saying, really. Do a bit of research, see what's what, see if it's possible. And also I just think when you've done a lot of things, I mean, I'm quite keen on photography. You can see my photography on my website. It's all there. And a lot of people said to me, you need to sell it. You need to sell it. You need to put it online. You need to sell it. So I set up an Etsy site. I was selling it, framed or not framed. I found a website that you can order it and they can send it direct to the customer, so you don't have to be involved. I spent hours on it. And did I sell anything? Nobody asked. I had people saying to me, you must sell it. I'd buy it. Nothing. I sold a few. And I think I've done a few things like that where I'm now a bit more aware. I'm a little bit, not cynical, but aware that sometimes these ideas, it's just not going to happen unless you put your entire focus on that one thing. And I have quite a few things going on that it's like, no, I can't start anything else, So I think times change that, I think,
And the fact that you've tried them, because I mean, I'm someone who I've tried all sorts of different things. I mean, I've been self-employed for most of the last sort of 13 years or so, and similarly I've tried selling cards or doing all sorts of different things, and but sometimes you have to try it, don't you, to see what works.
Yeah, you have to try, and that's the hardest thing actually, is when someone's so excited about something and you feel a little bit like, oh, I've been there, done that. You don't want to say don't bother, don't do it, it's not going to work. But you kind of like just sort of explain that you just got to be really careful, especially things like Etsy where there's an algorithm and hashtag, and you've got to get people's attention. And it might be a lovely idea of a gift card that's got something stuck to it that you've never seen before, but you've got to remember how to sell it. And I would just say, just enter with caution, like just be careful how much time you put into it, because then you get more disappointed.
I like working with people who've got lots of ideas, and sometimes they come to me to sort of figure out how to move them forward or how to choose what to do. And I'll always say, what you need to have, as long as you've got some kind of foundation, so if you've got a foundation, whether it's a part-time job or a retainer client, or you've got your series of shows and things that you do, you can afford a little bit of time to experiment with something, but it's not your everything. It's your sort of, you dabble and sort of see, and sometimes you find that you don't actually enjoy doing the thing anyway. It was a lovely idea, but in practice,
and it's the thing is that not everything has to be a business, not everything has to be sold, and that's what I've suffered with in the past. And even by upcycling things, I take the glass out of a picture frame and whatever picture was in it, and sort of like board it all up, and then I paint the whole frame, and I absolutely adore it. And my first thought was, I'll put these online, maybe I could sell them, maybe it could become a thing, open a shop. I start getting carried away, then I go, hang on a second, let's just go back over this. And actually I've really enjoyed painting them and having some time out without having to do anything that's earning money or updating my websites, just actually enjoying the art of it. And I did say to my husband, I'm going to keep doing these. And if I get a little collection, 12, 15, maybe I'll put some online to see if they sell. And if they do, maybe I'll go to a market, a craft fair, or, and if then it becomes a huge success, then I have every right to open a shop because I'm earning money, whatever. But I'm going to firstly treat it as just something, a bit of a hobby, like the love of doing it, and then just see what happens, which I'm doing at the moment. I'm just sort of, just painting things and really enjoying it. And if I put them on sale, I do. And if it sells, it sells. But I have that security because I have my performing work, you see. So it's kind of the band.
Well, that's it. And also that kind of creativity is time for you, isn't it?
Yeah, which is so important. And in the past, I think for me, my spare time has always been working because I love my job. I absolutely adore my job. So I could work all day, every day, all night, sat in front of the telly. I could be working because I just love it. And actually, when I was talking about this during my assessment, but when I was younger, I always wanted to be a graphic designer. And I was put off of it because my English is awful, terrible. And I just thought, it's not all designing record covers for really cool bands. It will probably be sort of like a British Gas, certificate or something I've got to design, or lots of writing, lots of text. So I kind of just didn't bother with it. But now with how the world is, obviously I've got Canva and so on. I do all my own graphic design, all my own posters, everything. And it's so joyous to do it. I just love it. So of an evening, designing a new poster for my Kevin Cruz character, it's kind of work, but it's so enjoyable that you end up doing it all the time. So you have to be very careful.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. And that's where obviously my mindfulness comes into play, where I actually can switch off and just remember that I have to be very careful not to just burn out, even with fun, if that makes sense. Well,
no, because I think you're also, even if it's enjoyable to do, you're still thinking about your work, aren't you? And it is, and it is your work, even though you're very lucky to do something that you really enjoy. It's still work, and you still need to have other time, don't you? Yeah,
you really, really do. Because it's all geared around something, isn't it? Even my design work, it's about a show or selling a show or pitching something that might lead to disappointment or rejection. And so that's what I love about painting, is it's just a chance to just do nothing really, just listen to some podcasts, listen to you, and just chill and just have a nice time without thinking about where it's going to lead, really. That's probably the best thing about it, is just to properly switch off and just, take a breath, for sure.
Because that's sort of, thinking about that's sort of where your mindfulness came from, isn't it? From finding something to do when you were on the road. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And that was really, I mean, it's all starting to, I can't even begin to tell you. It's a whole nother podcast about how it came about, but struggling with doing the gigs, which I loved, but I had real anxiety about performing, and OCD started to creep in as well. And I used to, sometimes I'd drive to a gig on a sunny Friday afternoon or evening, and I could be in floods of tears, just absolutely floods of tears because of just anxiety. And I start thinking some really weird things, and I'd just be in an absolute state. And then once I'd finished the gig, it was like the clouds had parted and it was a blue sky. It was absolutely wonderful. And then I sort of like wanted a glass of wine, or like, hooray. And it was this really weird mix all the time. And obviously I didn't know then about autism or ADHD. I didn't even think about it. So that's when I started mindfulness and experiencing mindfulness before COVID, really. And now when I go to a gig, I don't have any of it. I literally look forward to it. Remembering that it's not the biggest thing in the world. It's not, if it doesn't go very well, it doesn't matter. And I'd get so caught up in the thought of, if it doesn't go well, what might happen? I might lose other gigs, and just wind myself up. And now I go walking, I go rambling. Sometimes I'll leave 3 or 4 hours before I normally would. And I just go off walking the coast, charity shop shopping, without that constant niggle, Dave on my court going, oh, this gig could be the worst gig you've ever done. It's like, nope, not listening to you, Dave.
Yeah. Because
that's made a big difference.
You're practicing your mindfulness.
Yeah, and I'm just remembering what's important in life. I practice gratitude. I do some lovely things. I put my hand on my heart and just ask myself, what do I need in this moment? Which is a really powerful thing, just to say, what do I need right now? And it's amazing if anyone does that at any point, what answer they give themselves as well. Because sometimes it's not always that they need to take a breath, they need to slow down. Sometimes they go, I need a really fun day. I just need a fun, busy day. you know, and it's just giving yourself that permission to think that for a little bit, just hand on your heart, what do I need right now for me? That's it, you know. And that's what I did a lot, and it really helped with performing, and I love it, because I mean, I always loved it, but there was always just this weird thing before or after a gig that I couldn't understand, and which is why diagnosis is great, because you then can understand yourself and work out why you're like this.
Yeah, so you can connect up some of those things and look out for them.
Yes, absolutely. Like the whole thing is fascinating now, just with my diagnosis and my mindfulness and performing. The whole thing has gone full circle, and I understand the whole thing of why I feel like I do. I'm not saying it's always great, don't get me wrong, but it makes a big difference if I have a gig that maybe isn't that great. In the past, I've beat myself up about it to a ridiculous extent. You know, I'm literally burning my costumes and, you know, handing back my equity membership. I'm like, no, I'm done. And now I'm just like, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. It's not that important, you know. Yeah, and I think that's spending a lot of time just with gratitude.
Yeah, which is a great thing to be able to bring into it. And I guess that's and then that's another one of the things that you can do something with when you want to, in terms of your business side of things. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Because that can also get, you know, you can also get carried away with things, can't you? Because from a money perspective, again, I've been terrible with money in the past, and now it all makes a lot of sense. It's taking control of something, and even your creativity, not letting it run away with you, just sort of taking control of it and working out what works best for you. So, for instance, even money-wise, I joined Monzo, which is quite a new thing, really, but it's fantastic for me as a visual person, because I don't know if you have it or not, but you open pots, create little pots. When stuff gets paid into my business account, you can automatically transfer stuff into your tax, and it all just does. It's wonderful, and you can sort of like set things for savings, for this, for that. So for somebody who has ADHD, it's just a life changer. It's absolutely amazing what I can create and what I can do on a visual sense. I find it really interesting. But like with anything, if it helps, which is why I'm such a advocate for talking about anything like this. I'm quite an open book, and I love it, because if it helps anyone else, you know, then how brilliant. Because I wish I'd known so many things over the years, you know, so many things.
Well, that's it, and I think it's the kind of thing, isn't it, where you kind of find your own way of doing things, particularly if you're self-employed. I mean, I think, it's been quite a long time now since I was in a job going into an office, but then you have all the systems that are set up, and you just sort of fit in. You either fit in with those, or you either fit in with them or you don't, or you're the person who sets them up if they don't exist.
Yes.
But when you're self-employed, it was interesting. There was someone else I was chatting to, and we were saying how once you haven't got that, you have to set it up for yourself, don't you? Whether it's your to-do list, or I go to an online co-working session sometimes, which is, in ADHD terms, they talk about body doubling, where you can go online and there's other people working, and you're not talking to them, you're all just working, and you might have a break in the middle and have a chat, but essentially you're sort of forcing yourself to work because other people are there, and it helps you to get stuff done. That's very true. I've never looked into that body doubling, actually. I've seen things and so on and so on. But I've never done it. But I think it's a great idea, you know. It's a great idea. If it can anything that can help you, you know, anything that can make you function and do what you need to do, I just think it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So let's talk about Basil Brush. We haven't mentioned him yet. Yes. I've been working with Basil now for 9 years, I think. He did Panto, and the person that was the Mister, I think, got a West End show, I think a play of some sort. So, you know, had to move on. And they just said, you work really well with Basil. Would you like to do it? But not as your character, because my character's quite overpowering. But as me, as Martin, I was like, absolutely. I'd love not to have to wear the wig and the makeup. Brilliant. And so we started working together 9 years ago. And since then, we've done everything from Glastonbury Festival, we do every time it's on, to the cruise ships, Butlins, and we do a kids show, but we also do a grown-up show, Basil Brush Unleashed, for grown-ups. So for people to kind of reminisce. It's not naughty, but it's a little bit, you know, Basil's never naughty. I'm sort of like the one sat on the sofa next to him that can kind of be a bit naughty, but it's just a fun show
for people of our generation to kind of go out and to the theatre for a night and have a bit of silliness. But it's been a lot of fun, yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's people. Yeah, you say people of the right sort of age will know who Basil is, because I know he was in panto with you in 2024, wasn't he?
Yes.
And we came to that, and our daughter was like, "Who's what's that?" We were going, "It's Basil. Look, it's Basil."
Yeah. But kids love it as well, though, because for a lot of kids also that don't know him, it's still a fox. It's a furry
doing
fox.
Something silly.
Yeah, so they just go, it is what it is, really, which is quite nice. But there's loads on YouTube, and obviously, as you know, with YouTube, it's huge. So there's loads of old episodes and things, but it's a lot of fun, and it's nice to have two different performing jobs as well. It's nice to be able to shake it up. And sometimes I can be doing a Basil festival for a council in somewhere, doing a half-hour show in the high street, and then that night I'm putting my wig on and being Kevin, and that's quite nice to have that flexibility,
For a different day. And I guess you get to have creative input because you're writing lots of material for those as well.
Yeah, and every time something happens that's funny, we put it in the script. I think our original script is now completely gone. Everything's changed. We've added so many things at work, or if a song comes along that we end the show with and it's quite popular, we'll keep that. Another song comes up, replace it. So we do a lot of that as well, but it's a lot of fun. It keeps things fun, which I like.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, we need fun, and actually it's quite a nice way for me to start the series with some kind of bit of joy, creativity and fun.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. But yeah, that's why I think creativity is lovely, and I think things are going to change a little bit. I'd like to think people are going to start going back to traditional creativity and coming up with ideas that are more hobby based, I think, because I think sometimes social media has replaced a lot of people's hobbies. I think scrolling and whatever we do, it takes a lot of time, doesn't it? And I use it for work as well, so I'm over everything, and it just has to be what it is at the moment. But I think sometimes people are starting to go, I'm going to go to the works, and I'm going to go and buy a load of crayons or pens or pastels, which are quite cheap, 20 quid's worth, and I'm going to buy a canvas, and I'm just going to paint, I'm just going to draw, I'm just going to be a kid for a bit, or whatever it might be.
Do something.
Yeah. And whatever that is, whether it's a hobby or creativity, or I think more people are starting to do things like that. Just time to switch off, a little bit, and just something a bit more physical that you get your hands onto.
Well, I think that's a nice place to end it. So, before we go, have you got any places that people can go and look and see what you're up to?
Yeah, so all my, everything I've got is on upgradeyourday.co.uk. So that's a little business I run. So all my Kevin Cruz work, Basil Brush work, my photography's on there, my events that I run. I also run a chaotic cabaret, which is like 80s and 90s nights that people can book. So all my stuff is on Upgrade Your Day. And also I am... just because I had a podcast as well, which is Upgrade Your Day. That's there as well. I am starting to look at just addressing ADHD and autism in my world, and just kind of approaching it from maybe a different place than a lot of other people are, and how to deal with it. So if anybody wants to contact me or message me, if anyone's sort of if anybody has any advice for me or any hints or tips talking about the Monzo and things, please message me. I love talking to people. I love hearing what other people have to say about things. But yeah, all my stuff's there. Just check that out.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for being on Creative Conversations.
Thank you.
And thank you very much, Martin.
Thank you for listening to Creative Conversations. I'm Nina Lenton. I'm an untangler and coach, and you can find out more about my work and this podcast at ninalenton.co.uk.